think, I know we're looking to the future now, but do you think, yes or no if you can, that a Premier League club will be banned from European competition because of these rules?
No, I don't think they will. I think a combination of them being sensible and getting themselves, into a decent position. B, also a combination of it can't be in UEFA's interests to start. I mean, and all the noises you're seeing at UEFA are about them being the ultimate, deterrent. But I think this is going to be more of a speed bump and a speed camera than it is necessarily about banning clubs from European competition. It's like anything. Whenever a disciplinary matter comes up here, people say, "Oh, it could be points deduction because it's the ultimate deterrent in some ways." And I think with the idea that I don't see under any circumstances are clubs that would get themselves anywhere near the point of being excluded. And I don't see UEFA applying the rules in necessarily that draconian way. This is about taking some steam out of the system. As I say, it's about putting speed bumps in the road. It's about dealing with some of the excesses. I don't think it's about, banning people from European competition.
Does it mean the end of Roman Abramovich's or Sheikh Mansour's? Does this effectively mean that we won't see those again in English football?
No, it doesn't, because it means, those that can come in and build. This only applies if you then want to play in European competition. So it still does allow a club, somebody to come in, buy a smaller club or buy a medium range club that's not currently in Europe, invest heavily in the initial couple of years to get yourself into that position. But you've got, along with that investment, you've got to start generating revenues in order to keep the balance. And therefore, you can only really do it if you achieve success with that money.
Even if a club like City and others were to increase their revenue through Champions League qualification, for example, it's still not going to be enough to enable them to meet these criteria, given their current losses, which means cutting their losses in terms of player salaries and transfer deals. Is this a salary cap in all but name, effectively?
Well, it's a soft salary cap, I think I would call it, because by definition, if revenue has to equal expense, then by far the largest expense is on player acquisition and players' wages, and therefore, there's not many other revenue lines that a club can cut to save the sort of money that they're going to need to save. So by definition, players' wages are by far the biggest operating expense a club has, and therefore, if you have to make sure you break even, it's bound to have an impact on players' wages. But I think what it'll also have an impact on is squad sizes, on the amount of players they've got, because what teams traditionally do when this new growth factor funding arrives, they stock up. They're much better at acquiring players than they are of disposing of them, and therefore they end up quite often with larger squads than either they need or is necessarily good for them or good for the players. And I think what you will see is a rationalisation of squad sizes.
And if it does have a downward pressure on wages, is that a good thing?
Great. Absolutely great. There's nobody in football who is proud of the wage inflation that we've experienced, but on the other hand, we don't sit here and apologise for it either, because it's the one thing that's attracted the talent that has made the league as successful as it has. And the one thing we mustn't do is do anything that dampens the international appeal of our league and the ability to attract international talent.
But it will do, though, won't it? By the very nature, if you're going to have to pay players less, then it will